Welcome to North Penn Television. I'm your chef Cynthia Wood, and this is Meals You Can Make. Today we're going to make two different types of pizza. It's going to be a really simple dinner. This is the kind of meal that you can actually have your preteen or teenage children make for you to give you a night off. The ingredients that we're going to use, we have a package of already made pizza crust. I had to think about that for a minute. And it's not the brand that starts with the B because that's more bready. This is more like actual pizza crust, and I find that it's easier to hold up to the toppings. We have tomatoes, some fresh garlic, onions, fresh basil, sliced mushrooms, some mozzarella cheese. We have some already cooked chicken. If you had chicken a few days earlier in the week, not more than 2 or 3 at the most, you can use that, and then we have some green pepper. And we also have pepperoni. I want to tell you a couple of things about some of the vegetables that we're going to be using. We talked about mushrooms before. If you missed that episode, I'm going to tell you again. Mushrooms should be closed around the stem. It indicates freshness. So what you want to do is just pop that out. I'm going to wash this since it has not been washed. And then just slice it. And that's our mushroom. Add it to the pile. And then for garlic, garlic should also be closed. If this has started to separate, I call it the paper, but it's the skin. If it has started to separate, it's not as fresh as it should be. And you just want to peel some of that away and pull out, I love garlic, so pull out a clove, but if you like garlic too, you can pull out more than that. Now you can make this recipe with roasted garlic, and all you need to do is stick that in the oven for about a half an hour at about 350 degrees, drizzle a little bit of oil over however many cloves you put in. Actually, I think we'll use 2. And maybe a little bit of salt if you'd like. And just leave that in the oven, and when it starts to turn brown, you know that it's getting to be done, and it will be very, very soft. And then all I do is chop it rough and throw it in. But for time constraints, this is actually a little faster, because if you decide on the way home that this is what you want to make for dinner, it's easier to just throw in some garlic. So then I'm going to cut the end off. Now, I also would like to recommend that you do not use a garlic press. What happens when you use a garlic press is that it, what's a good word? Fractures maybe the garlic to the point that it makes it bitter. The more you cut into garlic, the stronger the flavor and the more bitter it becomes. So the best thing to do, if I can get this cut off, is to, and those new little garlic things that take the peel off are really handy. If you pick one of those up at a houseware store. You can just take the blade of your knife, put it down like that, and pound it, and it'll smash it if you're going to throw it into a stew or something. But since we're going to actually cook it with our vegetables to put on our pizza, I am going to just kind of cut through that. And you can see that we have, some chunks are a little larger than others. But it's better this way because we'll get the flavor and not the bitterness. And we'll do one more. And clean up as you go so you don't end up with any garlic skins in there. Okay, and I'm just going to push down on that one and cut through it a little bit. Now, today we're going to use a little bit of a light olive oil. Normally we use a lot of butter, so this will be something new for a change. I'm going to turn the heat on, put a little bit of light olive oil in. And we will just turn the pan around a little so it gets on the bottom. That's going to start to heat up. We're going to throw our garlic into that and also our onion. Let me clean up my mess. And with onion, the reason that you get watery eyes is because it's a chemical reaction that takes place inside the onion as you cut through the layers. It's like tiny little explosions go off, and the shrapnel from those explosions are actually what make your eyes water. It's not the smell. It is actual onion debris. I'm just going to peel this skin away. And we're just going to slice this into rings. Now, both of our pizzas today do not have tomato sauce on them, so they could be considered a white pizza. But with the onions and the mushrooms on our chicken pizza, they're going to give it a nice amount of moisture. So you really don't need sauce. And then with the other pizza that we're doing, the tomatoes are going to form the base. I'm going to put the onions in first. Garlic can burn fairly quickly, so I'm going to put the onions on the bottom. And then I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top so that it doesn't sit right in that hot oil. Flip that over. We're going to put a little bit of salt on that. And no pepper, just a little salt. Now, we have our mushrooms already sliced. As I said before, we like to wash them, not just wipe them off. So they're all ready to go. So we're going to let our onions cook for a minute. And this really is a nice dinner to have like on a Friday night when everybody has someplace to go later. It's fast, it's good, it's actually very nutritious. And it's also nice on a Monday night after the weekend when you've either had big dinners or you are just back to work, the kids are just back to school, and you want something that isn't going to take a lot of time because you're pooped out from the weekend. So it really is a nice, easy kind of a meal. Now these are starting to sweat is the term, and they actually do start to look wet and to glisten a little bit. And once it gets to that point, we're going to throw our mushrooms in. Now these will release their own liquid. So that's why you want to put your onions in first, because it releases the flavor, rather than throwing it all in together. There we go. Now, while that's working for that one, we're going to cut our pepperoni for our second one. And I just bought a pepperoni stick. I'm just going to slice it into coins, is the term. Just means circles. And if you want to, if there's someone in your family that doesn't care for pepperoni, you can put it on half the pizza. The other half is still going to have a lot of flavor because of the green pepper and the tomato. Pepperoni probably is not something you want to eat a lot of anyway because it is high in fat. But because our other pizza is made with chicken, which is healthy for you, we're going to put a little bit of pepperoni on this one. And I'm just cutting this into coins. And there we go. So that's ready. Now, with our tomatoes, what we're going to do is just cut away. And these, believe it or not, are still from my mother's garden from this summer. So you want to make sure, since you're not using tomato sauce, that you have a good tomato to use for the base. And if not, you could always just substitute sauce. And we're just going to slice this. And we will use probably 3 or 4 tomatoes. Slice that. And nobody's really going to see them at the end, so you don't have to worry about how they look. It's nice if they're all even because that way some won't get overdone and some underdone. And we're just going to take one of our crusts and lay these around like this. You can shake off some of the excess water from the seeds if you'd like. Let's get a second one. Now I threw the top of the other tomato away because it had started to get a little brown, but if you'd like, you can just dice this top piece and use that on the top of the pizza for garnish. If it's just for you and the kids, maybe you don't want to worry about that, but it's a nice way not to waste the tomato. I'm going to take the core out since it's a little yellow and slice this one down. layer these around on our crust. And these crusts you can find in any of the area grocery stores, and they really are good. It's almost like a pizzeria crust. And we'll do one more just to fill in the spaces. And then I'm going to dice this one up, and we'll use this for the top also. And it sounds like our onions and mushrooms are coming along. I'm going to check those right now. The onions are getting a little brown, but because the heat isn't extremely high and we're using oil, we don't have a burn level like we would with butter. So our garlic's okay. And you really don't have to cook this for very long because it's going to go into the oven anyway. But I like to get them so that they're browned and softened because you don't really want it to be a raw onion on your pizza. So that's just about there. I'll let that go for one more minute. Now, I'm going to move that out of the way, move this back, and pull this one over. And I'm going to show you one more vegetable. Dry that spot off. This is fresh basil. What we're going to do is called a chiffonade, and it sounds like a really fancy word, but it's very, very simple to do. What you want to do is stack your leaves like that, one on top of the other. This smells so good. Basil is my favorite herb, and you can do so much with it. All right, let's try it like this first. So what you're going to do is you're just going to roll it. It's going to look like a little miniature cigar. And then, little piece of stem there, we'll get rid of him. You just cut through it. And what you get are little tiny strips, and that's what a chiffonade is. So it sounds very extravagant, and it's really something that's very simple. So if you see a word like that in your cookbook, don't be afraid, because usually it's something that's not as difficult as it sounds. All right, now let's take our mushrooms and our onions and garlic, and we are just going to plop that right on this pizza crust. And I don't know if you can see why I'm doing this, but there was a little bit of water, maybe a tablespoon, well, I should say liquid, that came out of the mushrooms. So it's enough to give moisture to your pizza without it being saucy, overly saucy. There we go. That's that. And now I'm going to stick that back there for a minute and just a tad more oil, because I'm going to throw the green peppers right into the same pan. Make it easy on yourself. And since the pan is hot, that's only going to take a minute. A little salt. And get rid of that. Now, this is our chicken. If you had leftover chicken last night, or if you just have one chicken breast and you want to cook it up really quickly, we're just going to put that. You shouldn't take it right out of the refrigerator and throw it onto here, though, because it's, you know, the pizza itself is only going to be in the oven for, well, for not a whole long time, maybe 10 minutes. So you don't want to put it on ice cold. It might not have time to heat up to the right temperature. You have to be careful when you're reheating chicken. It should be at least 165 degrees, to be on the safe side 170, 75 degrees, and that way you're sure not to give anybody a bellyache. Okay, I'm only going to put it on half, just in case somebody doesn't like chicken. Now, that one's just about ready to go. I'm going to put the basil underneath. I did save a couple of leaves. We'll throw those on the top at the end to make it pretty. This smells good already. Now, we're going to put, this is 1 2-cup package of already shredded cheese. If you get it on sale at the grocery store, it's a lot cheaper and a lot less aggravation just to buy it this way rather than to buy the mozzarella ball and shred it yourself. So I don't have a bunch of little elves back here shredding cheese for me. I just go and find the best deal on it and buy it already shredded. You want to be able to enjoy your family and your meal. You don't want to spend forever preparing it. So that one's ready. Believe it or not, that's one pizza. And that has mushrooms sauteed with onion and garlic, fresh basil, chicken, and mozzarella cheese. I'm going to move my cheese out of the way. These are softening up. Our green peppers. And that's really all we're going to do to them, is just to get the edge off. And now I'm going to toss those over our tomato slices. There we go. Move that out of the way. Now I'm going to spread those out. One little brown piece. There we go. Now what you want to do is take your pepperoni and layer that around. You could have the kids help with this, or like I said, if you have older children at home, they can do this themselves. Let them give you the list of the ingredients that they want. You can do it during your weekly shopping, and then have a day where the kids get to make dinner and help you out. And if it's something like this, they'll want to do it. So I'm going to pile it on the one side. And pepperoni is, like I said, it's a little bit higher in fat content, so it's going to release some oil onto this. So it might appear like it's going to be a dry pizza, but it really will be nice and juicy. We're going to load those in there. We left half off in case. And now we're going to take our other 2 cups of shredded mozzarella and put these on. You want to make sure you get it everywhere. Spread it around nicely. Of course, it's all over the counter too, but that's okay. There we are. And now I'm going to save the tomatoes that we chopped and a few of the leaves, and we'll throw those on just about before it's ready, so that we this will tend to blacken and kind of dry out. So we're going to wait until almost the very end to put that on. So now we're going to take a short break while I pop these in the oven, and when we come back, we're going to make a really quick dessert that you can make while your pizzas are cooking. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
What if you had to choose between a flower and an elephant? What would you choose? What if you had to decide between a 100-year-old tree and a 1,000,000-year-old beach? Could you choose between drinking clean water or breathing clean air? Now you can choose all these things. EarthShare, the world's leading environmental groups working together. It's one choice we can all live with.
You can make. We have our pizzas in the oven, and we will review what the ingredients were in case you missed the beginning of the show. But while they're in the oven, we have them at 400 degrees for about maybe 5 minutes, 10 at the most, and then we're going to turn it to broil real quickly just to get the cheese nice and brown and bubbly. But while that's in there, we're going to do something with some nice fall apples for dessert. We have an apple corer. This is a nifty little tool. Takes the center right out. All you do is put it down. Please make sure you keep your fingers out of the way. Push down. It should come through pretty close to the bottom. And you just spin it. And it brings out the whole core, the whole seeded part, hopefully, if you do it the right way. And if not, a couple seeds won't hurt you. So we have one. We'll do a couple, depending on how many people you have at the dinner table. Of course, this one's not going to come out as nicely. There we go. And you can peel these if you'd like, but with cooking them, the peel will kind of pull away from the flesh of the apple. So you can pick them out at the end if you want, if you're in a hurry, rather than worrying about peeling them. That's what we're going to do today. We have one little seed in there that I can see. Let me try this again. There we go. And for this dessert, you could eat it over pound cake, you can eat it over ice cream, you can eat it just like it is, and you can also do the exact same thing with bananas. So, we'll do one more. There we go. Now that we have the cores out, we are just going to slice through. Now, if you were going to prepare this any amount of time ahead, you would want to get a bowl with some water and just maybe a teaspoon or two of lemon juice. Not too much lemon juice, because then the apples are going to taste more like lemon than apples. But it will keep them from turning brown. So, but we're going to put this right into the pan, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're just going to slice them. Doesn't matter. They should try to have them so that they're just about the same size, for the same reason as the tomatoes on the pizza, so that some don't get done more quickly than others. And we'll slice those. These are Macintosh apples. They cook up well. We're almost there. We are going to use butter for our dessert because we want this to caramelize. And what happens is when you put butter in a pan, add sugar to it, when the white sugar starts to turn brown, it's actually turning into caramel, and that's why they call it caramelization. But we are going to use brown sugar for our dessert. Boy, these apples smell really good too. It's that time of the year. Okay, turn the heat back on under our pan. We're going to put some butter, maybe about 2 tablespoons to start with. We'll let that melt and see how that goes. If we need more, we'll add a little more. We are going to melt that down. We're going to toss our apples in, and then the only other thing we have is some brown sugar. So this really is very simple. And you could leave this on low while you're sitting down to the table eating your pizza, and then you can come back, scoop your ice cream out, pour your apples over it, and like I said, you can do it with bananas. It's a variation with bananas of Bananas Foster, and the only difference there is that you would add some liqueur and flambe it, which means set it on fire. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to melt our butter. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. And I'm going to start by putting in some of our apples. I don't know if you can tell, but they're already starting to oxidize. They're turning brown a little bit. So if these would sit while you ate dinner, they'd be really brown, unless you use the lemon juice. Just trying to separate this a little bit. And you don't want these overcooked. You're not trying to make applesauce. You're just trying to saute these apples. And saute is a French word used all the time in cooking, and what it means is to jump, and that's a literal translation. And that's because when people saute, see if I can do this for you, the idea is that you jump, like that guy did, jump the food out of the pan. But the idea is, too, that it's on a high heat for a short amount of time, and it actually makes the food jump. So I am going to add just a little bit more, maybe not quite a tablespoon of butter, into the center of my pan, so that'll melt down. And now I'm going to check my pizzas. Want to come to the oven with me? We're going to just look, and they're getting there. So we'll let those go just for a couple more minutes while I stir this quickly. And then I'm going to turn the broiler on and brown the cheese on the top. And since the chicken was already cooked, and recently, before the cameras came on, we know that it's at the right temperature. But you want to make sure, if you can, pull one of the chicken pizza out, pull pull a piece of chicken off of it, break in half, make sure steam comes out of it so that you know that it's done and that it's warm enough, even though it's already been previously cooked. All right. Maybe about another tablespoon of butter. So this is going to take a couple minutes to cook down. And while that does that, I'm going to turn it up a little bit. We'll jump those again. You want to make sure they're coated with the butter because you're going to put sugar onto it, and the butter is going to help the sugar to stick to every piece of apple. There we go. We'll let that go for a minute or two more, and I'm going to go turn the broiler on to broil. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be ready to eat pizza. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
You are 100% unadulterated energy. You have no choice but movement. You aren't acted on. You are action. You have the power to make the world a better place. You already know how to do it. Volunteer now for the American Red Cross. Call your local chapter for details.
Welcome back. Our pizzas are done and out of the oven. Here we have our tomato, fresh tomato slices, quickly sauteed green pepper strips, pepperoni, and mozzarella cheese. We threw a couple of pieces of tomato on the top for garnish. This pizza is our chicken pizza. It's sauteed mushrooms, onions, and garlic. We had a little bit of leftover chicken, about maybe a cup and a half to 2 cups. We put that on, some fresh basil that we have underneath our cheese. We have a little bit on the top for garnish. We have mozzarella cheese on that one also. You can put mozzarella mixed with cheddar if you'd like for a little bit more of a bite. That's our pizza. And now for our dessert, we have our vanilla ice cream, our apple slices that we cooked with butter, about 2/3 of a stick of butter, and brown sugar. And these are nice and soft, but not overly mushy. And we're just going to spoon that on with some of the nice caramel sauce. It's like eating a candy apple, only better. There you have it. So we have actually a very easy dinner for an easy night, and we have 2 choices for your family, a nice quick dessert actually, and we have enjoyed having you here today on Meals You Can Make. We hope that we'll see you next time, and for now, for North Penn Television, I'm Cynthia Wood.
What are you gonna take?
Algebra.
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 Algebra!